gentlemen, esteemed guests, fashion enthusiasts, and budding designers. We are thrilled to have you join us for the highly anticipated event of the season in Vogue 3.0 Phase 1. Today, our goal is to gain a deeper understanding of global insights of slow fashion. Whether you are a seasoned fashionista or just beginning to envision designs with stitches and fabrics, you are in the right place. Without, without further ado, let's extend a warm welcome to our distinguished speaker for today, Ms. Puja Mishra, a board member operations slow fashion movements. With her extensive expertise in fashion design and education, she's here to guide us through the captivating world of fashion. Ms. Puja, the spotlight is yours.
Thank you so much, Visali, and a very, very warm welcome to each one of you. I'm pretty excited to talk about the narrative of global insight on slow fashion today. But having to start with that, and thank you for the beautiful introduction that you gave me, Visali, and Somali for organizing this. Where we stand today, and as I can see, all of you are fashion enthusiasts. I would like to first of all know that how many of you have already heard of the concept of slow fashion, sustainable fashion, ethical fashion, circular fashion, regenerative fashion. And if you have heard of any of these names earlier, you know about it and you know how it is changing the narrative of fashion industry, maybe you can just raise your hand for 5 seconds. I'll give you about 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Just raise your hand if you've heard about it at all. Amazing. I can see we have our attendees still joining us, and it is so exciting to see all of you joining in. Thank you so much. Amazing. So many of us have heard about these concepts. Many of us are here to know more about it. To start with, I would like to say that slow fashion is the oxymoron of fast fashion. And I'm very sure that if you may not have heard of slow fashion, you've definitely heard of fast fashion. The term itself, gives us the insight of what exactly it means in the industry. It means the pace at which the production, consumption, and disposure of garment happens. Because when we talk of fashion and apparel industry, we usually talk about garments. Going to the second slide, why global insight on slow fashion is a crucial conversation today. Let me point out that whenever we speak of sustainability and slow fashion as a subject matter, there's always this demarcation that I have noticed from my work experience in the industry, that there's this global north who is consuming a lot, and there's this global south, which we are part of, which is producing a lot. And why are we producing a lot? Because we are being asked to produce, right? The reason why today we need to speak about slow fashion in the global insight perspective is because it is affecting everybody. In this room today, I can see few of you may have been a designer, you are studying designing, or maybe you are an enthusiast who would like to become something in the fashion industry. But understanding the whole concept of slow fashion, how that kind of affects you as an individual or as a community or as a nation is extremely, extremely important. And that is where our workshop today, we are going to talk about and decode how the concept of slow fashion is connected to each one of us. Many people say, oh, I don't understand slow fashion. What exactly it is? Is it like slow food? I was just supposed to, wear clothes slowly? I trust me, I have had people who said, slow fashion meaning wear your clothes a little slowly. Well, the funny part is that in a way it is correct. Let's go to the next slide. So as I speak, and in my introduction, Sally already mentioned that I've been part of slow fashion movement. Today, I'm facilitating this workshop for you on behalf of slow fashion movement, and I feel extremely proud to tell you that though I am right now logging in from Mumbai in India, you all are logging in from different parts of Sri Lanka, I guess. But this movement, this low fashion movement, is platform, which is headquartered at the Netherlands. So now you'll be curious that how come Puja, who is in Mumbai in India, speaking about slow fashion movement, which is actually in the Netherlands. So yeah, I mean, maybe when we can go to the next slide, I'll share with you a little bit about the movement and how our topic for today's workshop connects with what the movement is doing globally. So, starting from where we all started, slow fashion movement actually started in a room where there were few climate enthusiasts who were very concerned about climate and everything in Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Three people, Dutch, they were passionate about climate and they loved clothes. So they thought, why not just invite people to and challenge them not to buy any new clothes for a certain amount of time. Why? Because fashion consumption affects our climate. Fashion consumption affects the planet, the people, the animals, a lot of things. The fast fashion, especially, has a detrimental impact on all of this that I mentioned right now. So those three people, the Dutch who were in the Netherlands at that time, thought, let's just quickly, put a page up on social media and invite people and ask them to join us and maybe challenge them not to buy any new clothes for 90 days. And we will call it a slow fashion summer. And that was night of a fashion detox. And can you believe how many people joined that year? So there was a 90 days fashion detox campaign in 2018, and we had about 2,000 plus people who joined from the Netherlands itself. Now they thought, wow, there are so many people who joined. We three of us were just sitting in a room and thought of this idea. Let's do this again next year. In 2019, any one of you guess how many numbers joined in? Well, there was more than 14,000 people who signed up for not buying any new clothes for 90 days, and that was from 120 countries. Now see, from a small campaign that started in 2018 to the very next year, having people join this, not buying any new clothes from 120 countries shows the power of, the global insight of this narrative. Now, if you're curious how this all went, in the slide, in the screen, you can already see that in 2020, because we thought that our campaigns are being, there are people who are participating, they are getting involved. Our social media started growing. We thought, why not do multiple campaigns and create more impact, So what we did is we transitioned ourselves from becoming a slow fashion season, which means just running one campaign a year, to becoming a slow fashion movement, which means we could run multiple campaigns, inspire people on social media, initiate, awareness, education, and stuff like that. In 2022, however, we registered ourselves at the Netherlands. So now, slow fashion movement, which started as one campaign, today is a non-profit headquartered at the Netherlands. This is the beautiful journey of the movement, and exactly why today at this workshop, while we are talking about the global insight on slow fashion, we see the power of connecting the dot. People from all over the world are passionate about fashion. They love clothes, they love planet, and that is where they come together. Next slide, please. So our mission is to educate and empower fashion consumers to make environmentally and socially conscious choices. And when we say that, slow fashion movement, with all its mission, vision, values, and philosophies, thought that, just running campaign is not enough. Just talking about the global aspect of slow fashion to so many countries who are just participating randomly is not enough, So let's actually start educating people. And we started conducting workshops, events, offline, online. And if you remember from the previous slide that in 2020, when we transitioned ourselves from becoming from slow fashion season to becoming a slow fashion movement, there is one thing that changed about the movement. In that year, we started local groups. Now, if you ask what is local groups, these are local initiatives from all over the world. Right now, we have 32 countries where we have a local initiative, a group of people who are representing slow fashion movement in all these countries. So we also have Slow Fashion Sri Lanka, and we have so many of you, so many people who are so enthusiastically contributing to that. This movement is a 100% volunteer-led movement. So can you believe it? People who are not actually being paid for creating content, for conducting workshops, nothing. They're just joining the movement as volunteers to create impact. Why is that happening? Because there are people who are hungry to become a part of the systemic change that the fashion industry needs, the environmental aspect of it. There are so many people who love planet, that's why they're joining the movement. There are people who love clothes, but they also love the people behind those clothes, people who are making those clothes. And that is where the demarcation of the three concepts comes in: ethical fashion, sustainable fashion, and slow fashion. Many a times, many people ask me that it is so confusing that, what is ethical and sustainable fashion in respect to slow fashion? Everything seems so similar. And I would say if ethical fashion is about garment workers, sustainable fashion is about environment. Slow fashion is a huge umbrella which brings all of this together in one place. Uh, Sorry, next slide. So if you see over here, just now, the way I told you the story of how the global insight on slow fashion is connected to the slow fashion movement. In 2018, when we started with 0 followers, we just started a social media page. That's it. On Instagram, we just created a page. We started talking about slow fashion, sustainable fashion, awareness, running campaigns, doing workshops. Today, I can't see all the logos are here right now, but there are about 32 local groups as of now while we are speaking. We have more than 120 ambassadors. These ambassadors are individuals like you who are fashion enthusiasts, who loves fashion, but they also love the planet and the people. And they want to bring about change in the fashion industry to make it better, to reduce the detrimental impact that the fashion industry is making. Next slide. If you see, while I was telling you that, we as a movement are talking a lot about the campaigns, the workshops, the offline events, community building, community is a very major part of slow fashion narrative. Because, it's very easy for a person to sit in one place in one part of the world to keep watching social media, maybe get inspired, maybe create content about a subject, but have no first-hand experience. But it's very intriguing to see that slow fashion as a concept, which started long time back, is becoming a buzzword today. You will see there are so many brands who have their conscious collection, green collection, eco collection. They name such words, such heavy words, and many a times brands are just using these terminologies to greenwash, to just maybe attract consumers to keep buying clothes. But having said that, our objective by running two major campaigns a year, the Know Your campaign and the Slow Fashion Season campaign, creating content on multiple platforms like the Instagram, we have a YouTube channel, we do LinkedIn content, all of this comes to the same narrative, the community. Today, if we all are talking about the global insight on slow fashion right now, there are people all over the world, and in almost all the countries today, we have people who are passionate about sustainability and they want to be part of the solution. They are therefore choosing not to buy impulsive shopping when it comes to impulsive shopping, or maybe become very conscious and mindful of their purchases. Or maybe they are part of the supply chain. So what they do is, as a designer, they concentrate on sourcing sustainable fabrics and designing with zero waste cutting pattern styles. There are so many ways that an individual would connect to slow fashion. On one side, we see there is a pillar called producers. On the other side, we see a pillar called consumers. And there is always, This reminds me the Sustainable Development Goal of United Nations, the SDG 12, which says, the overproduction and the overconsumption need to stop. That is the goal. And that's where I feel that while the fast fashion brands are constantly creating the narrative and making the consumer believe that you always need to be on trend, you always need to, look stylish with the latest collection, we didn't realize that as a consumer, we can vote from our pocket. We are so powerful that being able to choose from sustainable brands or second-hand market or vintage collections or thrifting, there are so many slow fashion practices that could be adopted in order to slow down, and where I see the connection of dots from all over the world. I can tell you that from India or from Pakistan or from Bangladesh or from Sri Lanka or from most of the South Asian countries, we are still not in a place that we would like to explicitly go and buy secondhand, because we have this tradition and culture and we feel that, no, how can I wear something that has been worn by somebody? And also because the concept of secondhand is such in the European countries that the donation culture where people die and they just kind of donate stuff. So that narrative always gets gravitated to the global south. And that's where the slow fashion practice with regards to local brands, small brands come into place. So even if a person doesn't buy from fast fashion brand, in the South Asian countries, but they are into stitching, sewing, just going to a tailor, sourcing a fabric from a local market and going to a tailor and making that which is called made to order is also a slow fashion practice. And now we are seeing that the practices in the South Asian countries, the global South, is actually navigating to the global north. So as a movement, as a global movement, I can tell you that I have so many counterparts in the European countries who are adopting the cultural, traditional, the heritage, the heirloom, the handloom, the handicrafts, the artisanal values which the South Asian countries gave to the world of fashion right now in the European countries. So definitely, as you can see, that there is again a connection of slow fashion from the different parts of the world where we are constantly inspiring the other parts of the world to take up slow fashion practices. Next slide, please. So why do we need a slow fashion campaign on a global point of view? Right now, I just told you that as slow fashion movement started, this movement was a platform. We started something called slow fashion season. A fast fashion brand has multiple seasons. There are so many of the brands who are producing new collection every week, like 52-week micro season that is run right now. On the other hand, there was time when there was only, and supposedly, if you read the history of fashion, you're just supposed to have 3 collections a year. And unfortunately, that whole narrative changed because the circularity in fashion kind of vanished. And somehow the fast fashion brands were able to convince the consumer that you are supposed to be on trend. You are supposed to not repeat clothes. You are supposed to wear what is there on the mannequin, all of that. And that narrative kind of diluted in most of the countries, almost every country, where there are people and there is this debate where people say, no, I want to be on trend, so I have to buy fast fashion. And then there are segments of people who say, I want to be on trend, but I can still wear the same clothes and style it in a different way. So this narrative and this debate has been an ongoing process. And that's one of the reasons why today this workshop of talking about the global insight of slow fashion is so important. Because there is this thread that is weaving, this thread which is connecting all of us from all over the world, where we can be part of the solution, where we can actually bring about change in the fashion ecosystem. Sally, next slide. So few stats which I kind of accumulated, and trust me, if you go and read it through, there is so much information out there when we talk about slow fashion versus fast fashion. But few things which I wanted to really raise in connection to the topic today is that in the 2018 one, the survey that happened, there were like 17 million tons of textile waste was thrown away in the landfill. When we talk of this topic, let me tell you, most of these products, the garments which were discarded in the landfill, were fast fashion brand products. And when I say that, let me tell you, the fast fashion brands who are into mass production are able to make the business profitable because they source their raw material unsustainably. So about 75% of the fabrics used in the fast fashion brands are actually the synthetic fabrics, polyester. I mean, the fabrics which are actually made of plastic, where fossil fuel has been used. So imagine the amount of these garments which are being dumped on the landfill. Polyester alone takes 200 years to decompose. And during this process of 200 years of decomposure in the landfill, it also, while breaking down, it also emits some very poisonous gases. So, are you seeing what's happening? The fast fashion brands are sourcing unsustainable products, unsustainable sources. They create garment, they create hype that buy the garment. When they don't, they are not able to sell all of them. They discard in the landfill. So they have used our natural resources. They have played with the consumer sentiments. And last but not the least at all, they are continuing to pollute the environment because of the decomposure process of this polyester garment which is going on the landfill. If you see the second point, the natural resources that I already mentioned, while making a garment, there's so much of energy and natural resources which are used. And imagine you just go in the kitchen, you cook a meal, and instead of eating, you just go and throw it in the trash. How does it feel? It is something like that which is happening. They are making clothes, and clothes which probably are, of course, bought by many people, but they're making such a high scale of production happens in their levels that they're unable to sell, and then that goes disposed of in the landfill. So they are wasting all the resources which we used during the manufacturing of those garments. Come to the third point, approximately 20, I mean, as I mentioned, like one t-shirt, if you go and buy one t-shirt from a fast fashion brand, they must have used cotton, which has, that amount of cotton used for making that one t-shirt has used 2,700 liters of water. I mean, can you believe it? What a waste that they made that and then they are disposing them in landfill. Approximately 20% of the world waste comes from dyeing and fabric treatment, the synthetic dye. So we actually did a campaign, a year and a half back called the Know Your Jeans campaign. It was the first edition of Know Your campaign. So what we did is for 4 weeks, Slow Fashion Movement spoke about denim as a material. And while we were talking about the life cycle of denim as a material, what we realized is that although denim is one of the most durable fabric, it's sturdy, it's sustainable in a way because you can wear denim for a really long time. People did not know that the indigo dye, which is ideally supposed to be used in the denim industry, is not being used. Why? Because the indigo dye is very expensive. So what the fast fashion brands who are producing denim jeans or denim garments are doing is they're using synthetic dye just to maybe for the cost cutting, saving some money, increasing the profitability, and in process of that, the synthetic dye which is being used in production of those jeans, those denim fabrics are actually going to the rivers. The second thing about what we learned is that not just that the cotton used in the denim fabric is so huge, the cultivation of cotton is highly polluting. There has been mass suicides happening in so many countries in South Asian hub. We've seen the farmers who were under debt because they cultivated cotton in such a huge scale, but they never got paid. The third thing which we learned during that campaign is that, for example, a trend called the ripped jeans or the sandblasted jeans. People love that. I love that. I'm sure many of you have that. I have that too. But we did not know that the traditional method of making that ripped jeans was very different from what the fast fashion brands are doing. So there are some illegal. Why I say illegal is because the governments of those countries have made this process illegal. The illegal process of making sandblast and that faded jeans is sandblasting. Sandblasting is a process where There's a huge amount of stones and sand thrown at the jeans in a process which is very, very detrimental to the lungs of the garment worker. So there was a huge number of percentage of garment workers who died of lungs ailments during the sandblasting in these factories, and that's why the government of those countries made it illegal. And still, the fast fashion brands manage to use that process because that process is very cheap and very easy. They think it's only the garment workers who will die. We are saving money. We are making money. So this casual attitude, this irresponsible behavior of fast fashion brands have not just affected our planet, but its people as well. The story of not paying the government workers their living wage is definitely many of us are aware of. But can you imagine when we did the New Year leather campaign this year in the month of April? We got to know that there's so many garment workers who die of cancer because of the tanning process in the leather making. Leave about the breeding of the animals which is being happening in the industry to meet the demand of leather. So there are so many narratives, and all of these examples that I'm telling you, these examples are from different parts of the world. So while we are seeing that these legendary but very toxic narratives, these stories, these tags that we have right in front of us um, are out there for us to consume, as an individual, how would you see your role as a slow fashion enthusiast is very, very important. Last but not the least, as I mentioned already, that polyester is majority of the fast fashion brands using gravitating towards polyester. While we are aware that polyester lasts for a really long time, when we are washing those clothes, microplastics are exhibited in the water system. Anybody who eats fish or anybody who eats food which is cultivated on in the field, anybody who's eating rice or wheat, anything that you eat, if you're part of the food system, if you are consuming food, the plastic is going inside of you because the microplastic which is being exhibited by the fast fashion brands are going to the global water system. So that's how it's connecting us again to the global insight of slow fashion. Next slide. Coming to the local stats, I was just wondering if you may have heard of the incident a few years back, and please raise your hand if you have heard, and if you have not, then it's okay. I mean, now you know. So we had this. So there was this group of volunteers who were doing some cleanup drive in the elephants reservoir in Sri Lanka, and there were thousands and thousands of H&M tags that they found in that particular area, the WNR. This is a reservoir in Sri Lanka. I'm sure you may have heard that when the H&M brand was asked that why there are so many tags of unworn clothes discarded in an elephant reservoir, a place which is supposed to be naturally beautiful, and those volunteers went to clean up that place because it was litter. When they went there and they saw that H&M tags were there, the response was just denial. They first of all said, no, it's not us. And later, when they saw that, the whole world was questioning this particular fast fashion brand about why those tags were found, the garments were found in Sri Lanka, in that forest area, which is supposed to be clean, which is a natural resource. They had no answer to it. But of course, they had money to shut people down. So we just not need the narrative of slow fashion when we talk of consumption. As a person who is wearing clothes, all of you in the room today might say that, okay, fine, let's start getting very mindful, very conscious. I will buy only from sustainable brand. I will only wear what I have. I'll only support local brands, small brands in my country. But let me tell you, that is not enough. We need to bring that systemic change down. We need to speak with the brands and tell them that, look, this is what you're doing. So in the last 1 decade, I have seen such great news coming out of Sri Lanka as a location. As you can see, the stats which I have taken, are from the research gate. And in the part one, like in the last 1 decade, Sri Lanka's textile and apparel segment has actually undergone lots of changes, especially when it comes to technology and innovation. And it's just intriguing to see how, although most of the time when we talk of the producing countries, the garment producing countries, we have Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Cambodia. These are the countries who are majorly producing, making garments for the fast fashion brands owned by USA and the European countries. It's beautiful to see that these countries are actually bringing innovation in place, and they are changing the way they are making clothes. And there are some really amazing support from the policymakers that is allowing these countries to bring, introduce, and execute these innovative tools in the apparel production. The slow fashion circuit has been seen in the introduction of, not as I mentioned, like the innovation technology. Sri Lanka is known to the world for its triple button line. So this approach is so fascinating to me. I have seen that people usually just either talk about people or profit, but we have seen the record shows that so many factories, garment factories in the territory of Sri Lanka are focusing a lot on the three bottoms, like the planet, people, and of course profit, because at the end of the day, the motive is the money. Um, it's supposedly important for us to be responsible when it comes to the ecology, the ecological balance of our planet, and the garment workers who are working relentlessly for more than 17 hours a day without any sanitary break, without any food break, maybe many a times. And usually the women segment are exploited more in the garment workers industry. We've seen that as a country and as factory, like, the segment, Sri Lanka has been doing really, really well. And that is what we need to do for so many other parts of the world. Sri Lanka's apparel industry is the second largest foreign exchange earner for the nation. And in fact, the e-commerce estimates to reach 441.2 million US dollar by end of 2023. And that is extremely fascinating to see how when we open the television or when we are on social media and when we read news, we land up gravitating towards the negative news. I really wanted to present to you how amazing Sri Lanka as a location is doing in the apparel segment. And we need to celebrate that. There's so many platforms for amplifying these conversations. And please support them because you are there. You're part of the solution. Next slide, please. So yeah, I'm coming to the almost to the end of what I wanted to share with you about the global insight on slow fashion is that right now, as I speak and as I shared with you, that there are 32 local groups. We have slow fashion UK, USA, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Australia, Indonesia, and Netherlands. There are so many of these local groups who are definitely aligned to the mission, vision, values of slow fashion movement, but they have their regional context to share. So when any local group starts in the slow fashion movement, what we do is we talk about the local context of slow fashion. So what slow fashion means in the culture, heritage, tradition, and historical traditionalism in Sri Lanka could be different from Australia and of course is different from the USA, right? So that is where we see that the conversation around slow, ethical, sustainable, regenerative, circular fashion has to happen, and community is a very important part of this whole narrative. Sri Lanka is considered one of the top apparel exporting nation in the South Asian hub, and we know that as a location we are doing great, and that is where I have also noticed that there are other countries and other policymakers, the government, who are actually being able to get inspiration from so many other countries. So, there are these different nations working towards one motive. So, for example, I'll tell you, there's this legislative act called the Fashion Act. or the Fabric Act, which is actually going to be pushed in United States of America. And we as a movement are also endorsing it in India, in Pakistan. Why? Now you will say that Puja, if a legislation is pushed in USA, how will that impact Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or India or Australia? The reason is that when one country is taking a policy change happens, and when the government is focusing a lot on the green revolution, if we can call it again, the degrowth, the de-fashion, it's an inspiration for many other countries to aid that. Because past fashion started in Spain and today it is everywhere. So why not slow fashion happen everywhere? And that is when I come to an end to our session. I hope you were able to understand the concept of how intriguing and insightful global presence in the narrative of slow fashion exists. And the location you are in right now plays such an important and such a crucial role in changing the fashion ecosystem globally. So thank you so much. I come to an end to the session today. Stay connected, and if you have any question, shoot.
Thank you, Miss Pooja, for your enlightening insights into the world of slow fashion. Now it's time to open the floor for the questions. If you have questions, please raise your questions via the chat. I'll direct them to the Miss Pooja.
Actually, just call me Pooja. I mean, let's not be so wrong. It's absolutely fine.
I have been asked some questions. First question is, what is the difference between slow fashion and sustainable fashion?
That's a great question, and I somehow expected that. So there's this huge confusion. Whoever asked that question, thank you so much for saying so. So some people say sustainable fashion, some say ethical fashion, some say slow fashion. And if you ask what the difference between sustainable and slow fashion, let me tell you, the slow fashion is basically the narrative of the process in which a garment's life cycle can be gauged. So the pace at which a product is sourced, created, idealized, conceptualized, designed, marketed, consumed, disposed. This life cycle of one piece of garment and the longevity of that garment is called slow fashion. So how slowly it goes is called slow fashion. It has a very close resonation with linear economy, circular economy, because there is something called linear economy of business model and circular economy of business model. So slow fashion basically roots from the circular economy, where we want the clothes to be made very consciously. We want a slow fashion brand to source products which are eco-friendly, which are natural fabrics. They design it in a way that they don't waste while cutting and designing that product. When they are marketing it to the people who will really buy that instead of going to waste. When the person buys that, again, the journey doesn't stop there. The slow fashion journey continues, where a person wears that for a long, long time. As a consumer, I could say that. So I have a blazer which was actually worn by my husband in his 20s, and I qualify that as a vintage blazer because now he's in his 40s. So any product, any garment which is 20 years old, 20 and more, is called vintage. So that garment which he wore in his 20s, and today if I wear it, because oversized blazers are in, it's in fashion, and because he wore that, he paid for it, and it is still in a very good condition. Why not wear it instead of just disposing of saying, oh, it's old, let's throw it away? This whole concept and narrative is the contributor of slow fashion. And you know what? After wearing that blazer for as long as I can, I will be handing it down to my daughters, and they will wear it too. And once when they are done, probably they'll give it to their friends or somebody else. So this cycle of continuously wearing it and not just disposing it is absolutely slow in pace. And that's why it is called slow fashion. When we come to sustainable fashion, the definition of sustainable fashion is simply said that when we are making a garment, the sourcing, the production, basically most of the time the production, the manufacturing part is concentrated there more. So when a sourcing happens from natural resources, that is sustainable. Something that stays for long with us, but also something that is not impacting the planet in a negative way, in a detrimental way. So, for example, number one, a sustainable fashion garment could be a garment which is made of natural fabric, synthetic dye not used, natural dye has been used, that product is being worn and taken care of because it is sustainable, it will stay for long, and you have to take care of that. So when it is going wrong, something tears, you mend it. That is again a practice of slow fashion but into sustainability. So there's a very thin line difference, but slow fashion, I could say, is like a practice. Sustainable fashion is more of the production. A brand is supposedly focused in maintaining the whole narrative of sustainable, natural, and truthful way of creating its collection, if I could answer your question.
The next question is, how can we join with slow fashion movement as volunteers?
That makes me so happy to know that you would be interested. As I said, we are a 100% volunteer-led movement right now. I mean, our journey started in 2018, I said, from 0 followers to 50 plus K followers right now on social media. We have, in fact, about 52,000 people following us, and that is only because these volunteers, um, the volunteers are designers, stylists, upcycle artists, influencers, bloggers, fashion journalists, writers, fashion school students, primarily fashion school students, and non-fashion school students as well. And to join the movement, to volunteer for the movement, we invite you to email us your resume, your interest area, whatever you want to do for the movement to peoples@slowfashion.global. So, Kisali, if you want, you can put that in the chat. Since I've logged in from my phone, it may be difficult. Or let me try. So you can simply drop an email to peoples@slowfashion.global and just write an email saying you want to join the movement. Or else, easier than that, just send an email to me and I'll land up the interview for you. My email address is puja, my name, that is Puja, puja@slowfashion.global. So when you email us, we have, there's this board members, we have leads, they all are there, the core members. There are about 52 people who are right now are volunteers from all over the world. And I think the best part about being part of the volunteering program of Slow Fashion Movement is not only that you are becoming part of the solution to make fashion better, but I think personally, I feel that you learn so much that you're working with a global team. So people from all over the world is working with you. And trust me, it's been almost like 5 years that I've been in the movement. I joined the movement as an ambassador. And then today I am a board member, which is a sign that you grow. As an individual, you grow. As a person, you grow. And you are able to network with people all over the world with the same mission, the same value of changing fashion for better. So you're most welcome. Anybody who would like to join us, you're free to drop an email to us. If you want to understand what are the roles normally which we have people who create content. If you know Canva, how to design, create content, you could be part of that. If you are a blogger, you write articles, you could join the blogging team. If you are the social media management, you could join the social media team. We have LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. If you are a people's person, you could join my team. I mean, I work with partners, with fashion schools. I work with ambassadors and local groups. So you could join my team, and there are so many aspects where you could join in and contribute. At the end of 6 months completion, and of course you can continue after that, we award our volunteers, and we started this very recently. We award our volunteers with e-certificate as completing 6 months of internship with us. And along with that, you qualify to receive recommendation letters for interviews and everything from the movement board members.
The next question is why slow fashion is not popular in Asia?
I love that question. It's not popular in Asia because we don't really need it, to be honest. um, so you all are logging in from a location which is known for its tradition and culture. Most of the South Asian countries, if you notice, are already into sustainability. We most of the time stitch our clothes. Our grandparents used to use, the jam bottle to become a pickle bottle and a pickle bottle to become a planter. If you go to social media, you'll see the Westerners, the Americans, these TikTok videos, and all of it. They are showing, hey, look, I have made a planter out of my glass. They don't know that South Asian country people. I mean, we all were using this method for centuries. So if that is something which is home to us, why make it popular? For example, I'll tell you, if in India, like for me, rice and dal is a very normal cuisine for everyday eating, right? So for me, that's not a big deal. But a friend of mine who was in the UK, if I tell her, you know what, today I'm eating rice and dal, we call it bhat and dal, they would be like, oh, you're having rice and lentils, that's so fancy. So only because the concept is familiar to in one place, they become unpopular because that's part of our life. It's a very basic thing for us to go to a tailor when something gets torn. It's very obvious for us to go to a local market to buy something locally and support a small business and contribute to our own economy than going to a fast fashion brand. So these are very simple things like hands me down, heirloom, the hand woven, the handicraft, the artisanal craftsmanship, this kind of saris, the fabrics that you get in South Asian countries, you don't get in any part of the world. And today, the subject of sustainable fashion, slow fashion is a buzzword. People are using that like, oh my gosh, I'm the slow fashion. But for countries like ours, we are into slow fashion for centuries. That is why the word is unpopular. The concept is not.
Thank you, Ms. Puja. Uh, the next question is how can I incorporate slow fashion to my daily wardrobe instead of buying more?
To start with, wear what you have. The founder of fashion revolution, Ursula de Castro, she's an Italian designer. She said this quote and it became world popular, that the most sustainable clothes are the ones which are in your wardrobe already. So first of all, declutter, see what you have, what you want, what you need. The word want should be replaced by need because many a times we kind of land up buying things just because it's in trend, just because we want, just because a friend wore and you want to wear something similar. At the end of the day, it's all about our feelings here because we do have a relationship with our garments, with our clothes. And if we are not having a healthy relationship here, somewhere or the other, we are hurt because we know at the back of the mind that we are affecting our planet and its people. So I think the ground rule would be just start wearing what you have, what you wear, just restyle. I mean, I do that on my social media handle. If you go to my handle, you will see that I do normalizing repeating clothes a lot. I restyle. I always host these restyling challenges where I choose a particular prompt or a particular piece of garment and I say, hey, I'm wearing this blazer for 1 week now in different styles. So getting creative with what you already have is the first thing you could start with. The second thing is that when you know that, okay, I really need something, try to search for those brands who are locally made, who are small businesses who are made in Sri Lanka, who are made in your vicinity. By that, what you're doing is you're supporting that brand, that small business, you're supporting them. And they are not those people who are going to exploit their garment workers or who will be doing mass production for profitability. They are people who are really making small batches of collection, unlike fast fashion. Sustainable fashion is about small batches of production, and these small businesses, local businesses, are pro at it. So the second thing I would say is that if you need something really, really, then go to the small businesses, local markets and buy them. Also, I think in between wearing what you have and going and buying, there are a few mini steps like number one, swapping. Number two, asking or borrowing from a sibling. I normally kind of, borrow from my daughter as well. I have a teenage daughter and I land up, asking something from her wardrobe. Hey, can I wear this? So yeah, there's so many ways of it. And this is again part of our culture, right? The South Asian culture, where we do hands me down. When a wedding happens in our culture, our parents, our grandparents are gifting us saris which they had for years in their wardrobe. And that's the beauty of hands me down. So again, swapping with your friend. If your friend wants something from your wardrobe or you want from hers, just share, wear, enjoy each other's garments, and take care of all. So these are small and conscious steps towards slow fashion practices. And thank you for that question, because that's really such an important thing to start with in your journey of slow fashion.
How do I start a slow fashion brand?
That's great. So the first question should be that when you want to start a slow fashion brand, which means you love fashion, right, and you want to create something. And I think when you are thinking of creating something, when you keep in mind the planet and its people, it's so much easier because I know people who just join fast fashion brands as employee to get experience, so that one fine day they can start a fast fashion brand. But to start with this low fashion brand, I would say that I have so many of my friends who are like upcycle artists. I have seen them starting their business from home, just sourcing clothes from a place where it's manufactured. So, for an example, I'll tell you this particular upcycle artist that I know. She gets the garment, the fabric from Gujarat, which is called the Manchester of India. Like there is so much of sourcing locally made fabric from there. Then she gets them over here to Mumbai, and then what she does is she goes to the local tailors and she creates those garments which is designed by her team. And those designs are, and she ensures that the cutting doesn't waste fabric. And anything that the tailor is dropping on the floor, she collects all of them because then again she's putting that to a recycle bin, which is associated with a non-profit over here, and they are recycling them to make new fabrics. So there are so many ways of considering when you start a slow fashion brand. I will suggest first do a good research. Which segment you want to start with? Are you interested in a women collection or men's collection or children collection? And if that is so, what are the categories you want to start with? And also, there are so many platforms, online platforms where you can register yourself. And if you think that initially to start with, you don't want to invest on platforms to start a slow fashion brand, you can simply market your product on social media because platforms like Instagram and Facebook is also providing loads and loads of free tools for small and eco entrepreneurs. So I think that would be also a great avenue to explore when you're starting a slow fashion brand.
Thank you, Puja. Uh, Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we have to stop this session. However, we encourage you to raise your questions via an email or our WhatsApp group. Uh, we hope this session sheds light on the diverse approaches to slow fashion around the world. Our gratitude to Ms. Pooja for guiding us through this insightful session. Thank you
Thank you
all.
so much. Thank you, Sally. You were amazing. You moderated like a pro. We loved it. And thank you for also supporting with the technicality because I'm in a very low week, network today and I had to log in from my phone. But it was your support which allowed me to, go through the presentation. Thank you, each one of you, for joining us. Let me tell you, you all are very powerful in changing the fashion ecosystem. So continue supporting the slow fashion movement. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Pooja. Thank you all for your active participation and engagement. Stay tuned for more enriching sessions on sustainable living and responsible consumption.